Hey there, Eric Weiss here with video number 3 in my Goal Mastery series. In my earlier videos, I took you through my top to bottom framework for how to accomplish any big, hairy, audacious goal. We talked about defining your purpose, creating a vision, aspirational and inspirational goals, SMART goals, and OKRs. And now we're going to go through the most tactical and most essential layer to this whole framework, which are your daily routines and habits. Okay. It's fine to have an inspirational purpose and vision. It's fine to envision the future, to have really clear goals, to have a plan for all those things. But none of that matters if you're not putting consistent effort towards those goals on a daily basis. And so most of where I focus with my clients is actually, especially at the beginning, very much on routines and habits. In fact, usually what I do is I'll go through this whole framework and then I'll flip it upside down. Start with the routines and goals, right? And then once that's in a good place, flip it over again and then go top down from the purpose. And the reason for this is if we go through all of that sort of intellectual plotting and scheming and so on, but your day-to-day is a mess, if you're in chaos, if you're being pulled in so many different directions or so much noise, it'll all, none of it will resonate. None of it will land. And so we'll start by focusing on how do we prioritize on a day-to-day? How do we ensure that you're putting consistent effort towards your goals, right? How do we ensure that your number one priority gets the lion's share of your time, and so on? How do you even have good, physiological habits and routines, right? How can you expect to perform as a leader, right? Or as an engineer, anything that you do, if you don't have good sleep, diet, and exercise, right? So we kind of start at that foundational level, and then we're able to layer on top of it higher level work, okay? So without further ado, let's dive in. Okay. So there's a number of books around habits, Power of Habits being one of them. And the essential idea here is that we like to believe that we are in control of ourselves and that we're rational beings and that we choose what we do. But the fact is that we simply aren't. We are very much creatures of habit, but we're also very much controlled by our environment and controlled by our lizard brains, so to speak. And so the idea here is understanding first what our habits are, what's causing them, what the triggers are, right? What the rewards are that is that is enforcing that behavior. And then we can start to break and reform new habits. Okay. So what we do is we look at all your goals and say, well, what routines are necessary to ensure success, and what routines and habits do we have to break in order to ensure that you're successful? Right? If I want to build a great product, I need to make sure that I'm devoting at least 4 hours every week to customer interviews. Right? If I want to accomplish my goals, I need to make sure that I'm reviewing my goals on a schedule every Monday at 8:30 a.m. Right? If I want to get in better shape, I need to attend a fitness class 5 times per week. Right? So it's one thing to have the goal, but it's another thing to have it baked into your calendar. I guess the first thing I'll say is just the distinction between routines and habits. So a habit is something that you do automatically, and the routine is the calendar, it's the structure that makes the habit take form. So you can't create a habit, but you can create a routine in which the habit will organically take place, right? Because a habit is by definition automatic or instinctual. Okay. And so in the Power of Habit, they talk about this cycle. You have some sort of a cue or trigger. You take the routine, and then you have some reward based on it, and that's that reinforcing cycle. That reward can be some sort of, a lot of times it's sort of dopamine, some kind of, immediate gratification. But it may even just seeing that there's progress being made towards your goals. All right. So you might have some sort of physiological reward. Like if I exercise in 5 days in a row, I'll give myself some ice cream. But even if I want to, in my work, say I have a hiring plan to do. Well, if I spend 2 hours on that hiring plan, I'll spend 1 hour coding as a reward. And you can actually create sort of a Pavlovian response in yourself by treating yourself to something that you enjoy after doing something that maybe isn't attractive to you. Okay. Here's a couple books that I really like. So again, Power of Habit as well as atomic habits. They attack the same thing from slightly different angles, or they have different frameworks around it. The atomic habit framework talks about if you want to create a habit, you need to make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, right? Sounds kind of obvious, but again, the idea here is making it intentional, right? So if you want to create a habit, you analyze it, you assess it, and you can say, how do I make it more obvious? Well, I can make it more visible, or I can create some sort of automatic reminders that tell me to do it, right? Or baking it into my calendar. How do I make it attractive? Well, temptation bundling. That means giving myself a reward for doing it. Even anticipating the rewards, right? Just a moment of mindfulness, looking forward to that ice cream, will actually make me more likely to attend that fitness class, right? How do I make it easy? Well, let me make sure I've got my water bottle, my running shoes, set out the night before, for example. And then the 2-minute rule, actually pretty much how I run my life. The 2-minute rule is the idea that anything you want to do on a daily basis, just do it for 2 minutes, right? Because you will make consistent progress, and more than likely you'll end up doing more than 2 minutes. But as with anything, if you want to achieve something long term, the key is in consistency, in doing a little bit every day, as opposed to doing it in big fits and spurts, relying on motivation, which is often very fleeting. Okay? And then making it satisfying. So making sure you have solid feedback loops and rewards baked in. And then the converse of this, if there's a habit that you want to break, you need to make it less obvious, less attractive, right? Less easy, less satisfying. And so you can think about it in that way. If I want to stop snacking, don't have the snacks out on the table. Don't even buy the snacks, right? Or have some sort of trigger to say that if I eat ice cream, I have to go to a fitness class, right? And so on and so forth. So these are systems and ways of you analyzing what habits you want to create, what habits you want to break, and creating systems in place to control them. And when I work with all of my clients on this, we do this, we reflect on this on a daily basis, daily, weekly, monthly, etc. All of my reflection, all my retrospectives are looking back. There's always a section around habits. Okay. So that's the framework. Okay, that is, if you want to accomplish something, anything big and challenging, you need to have a big why, right? You need a purpose. You need a clear vision of the future. You need goals. You need a plan. And you need daily routines and habits that support you in that endeavor, okay? And all of that's great until it gets hard. And inevitably it will, by definition. If you are going after a big, hairy, audacious goal, it's going to be hard. Okay, if not, you wouldn't need all of this stuff. And so this book, Grit, is actually one of my favorite books of all time. And what it talks about is how do you break through that wall when it does get too difficult, right? Because most people, they might do all this work, they might create all of these systems, they might, have a wellspring of energy that gets them through maybe the first few weeks or months or maybe even years. But inevitably, they're going to hit a wall. And grit is the thing that gets them through. And you'll see that it all ties together. So in Angela's book, she talks about success, the formula for success. You start out with a little bit of talent. You apply consistent effort to it to develop a skill. You take that skill, you continue to apply effort to it, and you create achievement, okay? But if you want to create something bigger than that, right? Or when you hit that level of difficulty, what causes you to break through, or what you have to break through, is purpose, okay? Purpose is the thing that breaks through that brick wall, connecting it to that higher level why. So this is a book that I really like to inspire people to do all the work. Because a lot of times when I work with clients, they like the lower level stuff, right? They like the routines and habits, the systems, they like the goals and OKRs. And when we get to that higher level purpose and vision stuff, they're a little bit unsure about it. But this is the book that ties it all together, right? It's great to have all of these systems and everything, but eventually you're going to hit a wall, and it's that contribution to something bigger than yourself that's going to cause you to persevere even when you don't want to, or even when things get really difficult, or even when you might fail. Okay. And now here's kind of a rapid fire going through some cross-functional sort of books here. High Performance Habits is another one that I like. And again, it sort of reinforces my philosophy, which is why I like these books. This book is very sort of aspirational, inspirational. The author, Brendan Burchard, is a very famous motivational speaker. And he, in this book, looks at all of these very, very successful people. And he finds these 6 consistent habits amongst all of them. Number 1, find purpose. Here we are again. And then all of these various things that relate to this framework. Maintaining energy and positive outlook. I talked about those daily routines and habits around your physiology. External motivators, having the support system and the accountability partnership that we talked about in your plan, right? Prioritizing and planning effectively. Connecting and giving back and taking risks, okay? So this is a book that, again, I really enjoy. Once we've done all the really hard work, once we have put the whole system in place and we look at what's in front of us, usually there's this kind of, groan from the client of like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? This is going to be really hard. Then I have them go and read this book. And then they feel a lot better at it, because this really talks about, no, this is bigger than me. I'm really helping people. I'm giving back. I'm connecting. There's a higher purpose here, and it's worth it. Right. And so this is a book that just really elevates people's mood when they're going after something really challenging and difficult. Okay. So now let's talk about really putting it into action. Next steps. You have the framework now. Now let's talk about the key tools that I use with every single one of my clients. Okay. So this is like a kind of a curriculum, if you will, of a coaching engagement with me. We go through this whole framework. We break down these goals. We carve out that time in your calendar to ensure that you're paying yourself first. Right? We develop a sense of mindfulness, sort of one step, one thing at a time. We kind of work on some of the self-defeating, limiting beliefs. We bake in retrospectives and reflection so that you're consistently revisiting your goals. We pick ourselves up when we fail and we keep going. And even and especially when we don't want to, we do it anyway. Okay. And this is the first routine that I make every single one of my clients go through, and it's just a weekly sprint and retrospective cycle. Okay. Like I said, we go through this whole thing. We start at the bottom, routines and habits. And this is a weekly cycle where you, every single week, first thing before you dive into the week, right, you're facing the transition from the weekend, seeing that freight train of work bearing down on you. You say, okay, I'm ready to do this, right? You have a quiet space and you reflect on, for a brief moment, what's my purpose? What's my vision? What are my goals? What's my why? Where am I going with all of this? And then we choose an area of focus for the week, right? Allows us to whittle this thing down and move one lever at a time so we can see some real progress. And then we set some weekly goals. We break those things down. We decide what's the one thing that's going to move the needle the most this week. And then I have a whole other system with a whole other set of videos around calendar control, where we make sure that we have the time carved out for our top goal and we're moving other things aside. We decline, we delegate, we defer to ensure that our priorities come first. And then we kind of finish it with some gratitude and anticipation for the week. And then boom, we come to that first meeting and we're pumped. Okay. This is the most essential element of my whole coaching engagement. I'm an Agile evangelist. I apply the Agile principles to everything that I do, and our personal lives and our schedules are no different. Okay. Then we get to the end of the week and we do a little bit of reflection. We reflect on the previous week. We recognize our accomplishments. And like I said, we review our habits. What went well, what didn't go well, what contributed to my success, what held me back. Okay. And then we go through that system again to try to reframe them and break and reinforce new habits. We identify areas for improvement, and we make a commitment to be 1% better the following week. Okay. Now, I have all of these tools ready and waiting for you to put to work. And so if you follow the links in the video, if you reach out and connect with me at fullcycleproduct.com, I can share these tools with you so that you can put, again, the most essential element of this whole framework and this whole system into place. And if you try it yourself and you still need help, and I'm pretty sure you will, please reach out to me. And I've got a number of coaching systems ready and waiting to help you. All right. Best of luck and have a wonderful day.